back to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. My name is Peter Murphy Lewis. I am your host. Today, I'm really excited to be doing an interview about a topic that I'm passionate about, and I know that's really important in long-term care. And it's about how do we attract the younger generation, the Gen Z generation, the up-and-coming generation to come into long-term care and take care of America's seniors. So today I've asked three wonderful individuals to join me from North Carolina. I have Gabi Flores, Michelle Garcia-Vick, and Logan Grindstaff on the program to ask them some questions about how we can find more leaders like them to come into our industry. So I'm going to start off with a simple question for you, Michelle. Just start off by telling me how old you are, where you live, and how you got into long-term care.
I am 16 years old and I live in North Carolina, and most of my family is in long-term care. So it's gotten me to do the same.
I got a follow-up question for you then, Michelle. Was there a moment where you thought you weren't going to be in long-term care, and there you had an experience that said, no, like I have it in my DNA, my family's good at it, there's a chance I'm going to be good at it?
Yes. I've thought about doing other things, but for some reason this has turned me to become a CNA.
Gabi, how old were you when you became a CNA? And if you can remember with as much detail as possible, how did you first decide to become a CNA? Did someone push you in that direction? Did you see someone in your family? Did you visit a long-term care facility?
I am 17 years old, and the reason I decided to become a CNA was I was told about it by someone I knew. Before I started working as a CNA or as a jail tech or anything, I worked at McDonald's, and that was like a terrible experience for me. And like after that, I kind of just knew I did not ever want to work in like fast food, or like I just didn't want to work at stores, anything like that. So when this girl had told me about this job, I was like, okay, well, I'll do anything to work somewhere else other than fast food. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't know anything about it. All I knew was just something other than fast food or working at a store. So I applied and I was a Jerry Tech, and soon I got in the CNA classes during the summer. And from then I've just continued like working and wanting to, do better in what I do.
I have a follow-up question for you, Gabi, and because I feel like you highlighted something that's fascinating for leaders is you already had a different job outside of long-term care. Sometimes you can make more money outside of long-term care. Sometimes you have more flexibility. Sometimes you can actually hang out with your peers at a restaurant or in retail. You had that experience. What is it specific about long-term care that made you think, oh, I like it here? Can you remember something about your first week or your first month saying, this is way better than my first job?
The reason I thought it was better was because I got to work with, older people that have, a lot of history. Like they've been alive for a very long time and they can tell you all kinds of things. You're dealing with people's lives and daily things than just, food or like, items. Like these are humans. And I just really like that. I like coming to work, seeing these people like they're my own family or my grandparents. And I don't know, you grow really attached to them, and it's like a different kind of bond that you have.
I'm gonna keep following up because I like some of your quotes. You said you liked it because you're dealing with people. When you're talking to someone in high school, because I think all of your juniors in high school, Gabi, when you're talking to a classmate who's not in long-term care, is not a CNA, how do you, and you want to describe to them that this is a unique industry, how do you explain to them, in other words, what you just said, for example, we're dealing with people, how do you explain that to your peer and why you love long-term care?
Um, these people grew up in a different generation. They think differently. They like have been through things that we've never been through, and that they just they've been through a lot. And so it's not like I talk to my peers at school, because in reality I'm social, but I'm like, when I'm at school I don't really put myself out there. I don't go to school events a lot, like things like that. Like I'm very just like, I keep to myself. So it's just different when I come to work. I'm like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm dealing with a whole different generation of people, and I don't know, it's just very interesting every day, like to get to know them.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying you learn a lot from the older generation.
Exactly. Yes.
Logan, how did you get into long-term care? And then feel free to either talk about what your first week was like, or also, and kind of following up on what Michelle and Gabby said, some of the things that you experience here that is different than working somewhere else.
Well, I first got into long-term care whenever, well, my aunt's a nurse, and she was telling me about how I could go to nursing school, and she's like, well, you got to become a CNA first. And I was like, well, I'm never going to pursue that. Like, that does not sound fun whatsoever. And then the next couple weeks, I got looking into it, and then I noticed there was a position open here, and I applied for it. It was a jerry take job, passing ice, doing vitals, that kind of thing. And I applied for it, and I got it. And starting my first week, I came in here, and I was like, no, this is not for me, not at all. And then I started to realize that it's not as bad as it seemed on paper.
What was the turning point? What were the things where you started to realize not only is not as bad, that you started to like it?
I'm seeing how the older generation needed to feel like loved, and how they had no family a lot of times, and that you became their family.
In terms of kind of the way that you explain it to your peers, I'm talking to two of you right now are at your facility. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. You left high school and you went to work at a long-term care facility. To your friends who are not in this industry, how do you explain to them, Logan, why you made the decision to go today to work in a nursing home?
Well, ultimately, I told them that, like, hey, this is the step I have to take. I'm just doing it because I have to. And then as time went on, I realized that I really enjoy it. So I would explain to them, like, it's not just giving food out. It's not ringing up an item. You're dealing with the life. You're giving them love, giving them care, and showing them that you care.
So it sounds like you saying you see that CNA is also a unique manner to grow in your career, to develop a career. And I hear that from a lot of CNAs, that there's room for growth in long-term care. Do you find
Yes.
that to be accurate, Logan?
Yeah, it's a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm. Gabby, I want to go to you, and I want to ask you kind of some questions. I want to ask you some questions about what are the factors that are important for you when determining who you're going to work with. So, like, assume that I am a long-term care organization that's trying to recruit you. What are the values, Gabby, that are important to you, specifically to your generation, that you think would make me be able to stand out to you? For example, would I talk about flexibility of schedule? Would I talk about the relationship you have with your supervisor? Would I talk about the values of the organization and the way that we handle stand-up? What stands out to you, Gabby, as like, oh, you'd get my attention, I would look at your job?
What stands out to me is flexibility for sure, because I am still in high school and I still am a teenager. So it's very important I have time for socialization outside of work and school, and time to do work after school. Another thing is definitely like good relationships with like the people you work with and your boss and, you know, people higher up than you. And to just, you know, if you have a concern or an issue, that um they look into it, or acknowledge your concern, or deal with it. So to me, those are three big things for sure.
So my question is, what advice do you have for a long-term care organization looking to attract and retain Gen Z talent?
Definitely stay loyal, because as I think as Gen Z is figuring out, like in fast food, retail, that kind of thing, that their hires, HR, have no dismay in telling you to leave, go home, don't come back. But I feel like more in the healthcare community, that if the recruiter or HR is more loyal to you and is more open about issues, that they'd be more likely to stay.
That was a great answer. Michelle, do you have any advice that you would add to that you could give for a recruiter and HR person?
Just always own up to everything that you do and stay truthful to your uppers and just be honest.
Gabi, anything you'd like to add in terms of advice?
I say educate them about like what their role is and what's important and how important their job is.
My last question I'll ask each one of you is, in your first year of work as a CNA, what has been the most memorable moment or the most rewarding part of your job? And be as specific as possible in terms of rewarding. I'll start with you, Logan.
I would say that the most rewarding part of being in this industry is really seeing the smile on the resident's face whenever you do something correctly, or you remember them, or just any of the little stuff, whenever you can truly see that that meant a lot to them and that they cared for that.
Wonderful. Michelle, do you have a specific moment or memory that stands out as in your first year of working as CNA, saying this made me fall in love with long-term care?
The best memory I've had is just seeing how happy residents are and seeing you each day. Every single day, they just see you and they just brighten their day, or saying that they have a bad day from your other CNAs and you come in and they're smiling. It just gives you happiness. Like, you want to come to this job every single day because you see them smiling, so it makes you smile.
Amazing. Gabi, one of your best memories in the last year first becoming a CNA, what stands out for you?
Basically what Logan and Michelle said, just seeing them and like realizing how much you do impacts them and that they appreciate it, or just simple things like they said, just smiling. Yeah.
I lied to all three of you. I have one more question.
No.
If you had to describe long-term care in one word, how would you describe it? And I'll give you some answers that I've gotten in the past, while you all think on it. I've asked this question a number of times. I've heard inspiring, rewarding, a blessing, gratitude, admiration, giving back. So I'll ask each one of you. Michelle, what if you had to define long-term care in one word, what would you say?
I would say a blessing.
Wonderful. Logan, if you were to describe
It's-
long-term care in one word, how would you define it?
I would define long-term care as satisfying or very rewarding.
Gabi?
I would say it's definitely commitment for sure.
Love it. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If everybody did as great a work as Lisa does in bringing in young individuals like she does at Silver Bluff, long-term care would be in less of a crisis than it does. And thank you all for making a difference. I appreciate you joining me on the program.